I didn't mean for him to find the notebook. I know everyone says that when their secrets spill, but I really didn't. It wasn't some subconscious cry for help, or a test, or a booby trap. It was a Tuesday brain dump in a cheap spiral I bought 3 for $5 at Target, the kind with flimsy covers and optimism baked into the price. I had written pros and cons at the top of the page like a teenager deciding between colleges. Pros and cons of my husband. I started the list because my therapist said, name the reality you're in, not the one you wish you were in. I took that literally. Under pros, I wrote things like, makes me tea without asking, remembers my mom's birthday, never raises his voice, fixes absolutely everything in the house without YouTube. Under cons, I wrote things I was too cowardly to say out loud. Feels like a roommate. Never surprises me anymore. I miss feeling chosen. Do I love him or just the life? I closed the notebook, shoved it under a stack of mail on the dining table, and then life barged in, work emails, my sister's meltdown about daycare, a group text about someone's bachelorette weekend. I forgot that under that boring credit card statement was a list that could slice us open. On Friday, I came home to the dining room lit up like a stage. The overhead light was on, and the table was clear. No junk mail, no laptop, no half-open Amazon box. Just my notebook. Open. Turn to that page. Ethan sat in the chair at the end, hands folded loosely in front of him, posture straight but not stiff. I froze in the doorway. You left this under the water bill, he said quietly. No accusation, just a fact. I was looking for the account number. My heartbeat went straight to my ears. You read my diary? I shot back, because the best defense is a counterattack when you're terrified. He nodded once. I did. I'm sorry I invaded your privacy. I could have closed it when I saw my name. He paused. I didn't. The room felt too bright. I dropped my bag on a chair and sat opposite him because my niece didn't trust me to stand. The page looked childish from here, my lopsided handwriting in blue ink. Pros. Cons. I was doing an exercise, I said. My therapist. I figured, he said. It's very structured. His mouth quirked, the ghost of a smile that didn't quite make it. It's also brutally honest. I wanted to slam the notebook shut and swallow it. Instead, I stared at the word that hurt me the most, roommate. My own word. He put one finger on the edge of the page, careful not to touch the ink. Can I ask you something? He said. I nodded, because my vocal cords were somewhere under the table. When you wrote this, he tapped lightly, did you imagine I'd never see it, or did you imagine me finding it and finally getting it, without you having to say it? It was the kind of question that makes you hate and love someone at the same time. I didn't. I don't know, I said. I didn't intend for you to see it. But part of you might have wanted the list to do the talking. He said it like an engineer explaining a bug report, not a husband dissecting his own heart. I opened my mouth to deny it. Closed it. Maybe, I said, and shame burned my throat. He breathed out slowly, like he was letting go of a heavy box. Okay. Then I'm going to take it at face value. What does that mean? I asked, even though my stomach already knew. It means, he said, folding his hands again, that I believe you. That I believe this is how I show up in our marriage for you. Reliable, safe, and fundamentally not what you want. That's not fair, I said, too quickly. You're twisting it. He shook his head. I'm quoting it. Do I love him or just the life? That's a hard sentence to write. I'm not going to pretend you didn't write it just because it's inconvenient for me. The worst part was that he wasn't angry. If he had yelled, I could have defended myself. If he had cried, I could have rushed around to comfort him and postponed the actual point. He was calm in a way that made me feel like the one overturning tables. I wrote it on a bad day, I said weakly. How many good days did you write on the next page? He asked gently. I hadn't even opened the notebook since that Tuesday. He pushed it toward me and flipped to the next page, blank. The next, a grocery list. If it was just a bad day, he said, you would have come back and balanced the ledger. You didn't. That tells me you were afraid the numbers wouldn't change. His precision hurt more than any insult could. You're making a whole decision based on one page, I said. He nodded slowly. No. I'm making a decision based on 5 years of small signals that I didn't want to overreact to. The list just organized them. He stood up then, and for a second my heart tried to climb into my mouth. I thought he was going to leave right there, like a movie scene, chairs scraping dramatically. But he just walked to the sideboard, opened a drawer, and pulled out a folded document. I've been talking to my own therapist, he said. For about 3 months. That knocked me off balance. About what? About us, he said. About me feeling like an employee of our life instead of a partner in it. About wondering if you were here because you want me or because we built an efficient little machine together. Mortgage, routines, couple friends, the dog. About how initiating anything deeper with you started to feel like I was asking for an exception from a policy no one wrote down. He unfolded the paper. It wasn't a legal thing. It looked like a letter. I was trying to find the courage to ask if we should separate, he said quietly. Not because I don't love you. Because I do, and I can't keep being the only one risking an honest conversation. My chest clenched. So you were already thinking of leaving? I was already thinking, he corrected. Not planning. This. He gestured at the notebook. Moved the thoughts into decisions. I reached for the notebook like I could undo it by smearing the ink. I was trying to figure out how to fix it, I said. It wasn't a verdict. It was a draft. He looked at me for a long time. Then why didn't you talk to me, he asked, and it was the only time his voice cracked. Because I was afraid you'd agree, I thought. Because I didn't want to hear you say you weren't happy either. Because as long as it was just in my notebook, it wasn't real. I didn't know how to say, I'm lonely, without making it sound like your fault, I managed. He nodded, slow, absorbing it. Here's the thing, he said. I'm lonely too. I've been trying to fix it in the ways I know. More date nights, asking about your day, taking stuff off your plate. You've been trying to fix it alone in therapy and spiral notebooks. We're building 2 different bridges from opposite sides of the river, and they're not lining up. Silence stretched between us like a third person at the table. So what? I whispered. You're just done. He didn't answer immediately. Instead he walked down the hallway and came back with a small duffel, the one he uses for overnight work trips. It was already packed. I stared. You were going to leave whether you found the notebook or not. I was going to give us a choice, he said. A real one. I also promised myself that if I ever saw proof that you were staying for the life instead of the person, I wouldn't negotiate my way back into your maybe. He set the duffel near the door, not dramatically, not like a threat. More like someone placing luggage on a scale. I'm not slamming doors, he said. I'm not disappearing. I'm not running to a lawyer tomorrow. I'm going to my brother's for a while. We both need space to figure out if we actually want each other, not just the schedule we've built. My eyes flooded. So that's it? A list and you walk away? He stepped closer, but not too close. No, he said. Years of both of us not saying the thing out loud. The list was the first time you did. I'm respecting it. Respecting it would be staying and fixing it, I snapped. He shook his head. Respecting it is believing you when you wonder if you even love me. I'm not going to campaign for my own re-election as your husband while you hold a private vote in your notebook. That line hit harder than any fight we'd ever had. What do you want me to say? I asked, voice rising. That I chose wrong? That I'm ungrateful? That I should have written a gratitude journal instead? He swallowed. I want you to say what you actually want, he said. Not what you think sounds noble. Not what Instagram would clap for. Do you want me? Not the shared calendar, not the house, not the way we look in Christmas photos. Me. The man who color codes the pantry and falls asleep during movies and forgets to water plants unless they text him. I opened my mouth and found static. Terror. Possibility. Nothing that sounded like a clean yes. I don't know, I whispered. He closed his eyes for a second like someone bracing for a wave. When he opened them, they were wet but steady. Then I'm not going to stay here and pretend your, I don't know, is a yes, he said. That's not fair to either of us. He picked up the duffel. You're leaving because I'm confused. I said, angry again, because anger is easier than grief. I'm leaving because I won't live in a marriage where my partner is writing pros and cons about me in secret and calling that working on it, he said, and there was finally a little steel in his voice. If you decide you want this, us, you're going to have to say it like you mean it. To my face. Not to a notebook. Not to your therapist instead of me. He walked to the door, then turned back. I've left the name of my therapist and a couples counselor on the fridge, he added, almost businesslike. If you make an appointment, I will show up. If you text me to come home so we can actually talk, I will listen. But I'm done being the only one willing to risk hearing the answer. He put his hand on the doorknob and hesitated, giving me one last chance to sprint across the room and stop this. I didn't move. That is the part one we'll replay 100 times later, all the things I could have said in that doorway and didn't. Goodbye, Mia, he said softly. Not slamming the door, not tossing accusations over his shoulder. Just, leaving with his back straight, his head level, his dignity intact. After the door clicked, the house felt like a hotel lobby after checkout. Same furniture, less meaning. I sat back at the table and looked at the notebook. At my own handwriting, suddenly accusatory. I picked up a pen and wrote under, cons. Weaponized confusion. Wants him to read my mind. Then, under, pros, I added. Deserves someone who says yes out loud. I stared at that last line for a long time before realizing I didn't know which of us I meant. He won, if you're keeping score. Not because he stormed out, not because he punished me, not because he found someone new faster. He won by believing me the first time I said, even in ink, that I didn't know if I loved him. He won by refusing to negotiate his way back into a life where he was a pro on a list instead of a person at a table. I lost the ability to pretend my ambivalence was harmless. I don't know yet if this is the beginning of our reconciliation or the prologue to our divorce. I know only this: the next time I make a list about my life, I'm going to show it to the person who's on it before fate does. And if I ever say I don't know whether I love someone, I'm going to treat that like a 5-alarm fire, not a journaling prompt.